What's up, guys? Welcome to today's video. Hope you guys are having a great week so far. Today's video is going to be a Q&A that I had you guys ask me some questions from my Instagram stories. I have 8 questions here, so hopefully we'll be able to run through them within about 10 minutes. They're mostly real estate related, a lot of Airbnb, and then a couple personal questions as well. So without further ado, we're going to jump into it with question number 1. What's a good budget for starting an Airbnb / short-term rental? So this is a very good question. There's a lot of dependence on how much your down payment's going to be, on how big the property is, where the property's at, how much you want to spend on furnishing. But we're going to break it down like step by step. So the first thing you're going to have to do, at least if you're buying the property and you're not going to arbitrage it, I do not arbitrage rental properties or Airbnbs, so I'm not going to talk about that. But that will be your cheapest cost of entry, is if you just essentially rental arbitrage is you lease a place from someone else that owns it, and usually with an agreement, they're allowing you to then sublease their property based on your lease for a little bit more of a premium. So then the actual owner of the property gets what they want from the property from you, and then you rent it on VRBO or Airbnb at a premium, and then you take that difference. The cheapest cost of entry for an Airbnb would probably be buy a property as a primary residence, live in it for the year, so then you can get that 3.5 to 5% down, or you can buy it as a vacation home. And I don't know the exact rules on it. You have to stay there for a certain amount of time each year, but you can buy it as a vacation home for as little as 10% down. Now, if you're planning on just going straight into an investment property with it, you do have to put 20% down on the property. Or if you're buying it out of state, you have to put 20% down because it is seen to the banks as a rental property or an investment property rather than a primary residence. The next thing you have to do is, if it's a turnkey property, you're going to be lucky with that, where you don't have to put in any work. I would always cushion in about $1,000 to $5,000 in just extra work when you go into a property to make it Airbnb ready, whether it be paint touch-ups. There's going to be a little bit of few times where it's actually like truly turnkey ready. You're not gonna have to put any money into it besides buying furniture. The next step, after you put your after you buy the property, put your 3 to 5% down, you're gonna get into the furnishing of the property. Now, there can be some properties where it comes with a separate bill of sale where you actually buy the furniture with the property itself, but we're going to go with the majority of the time where you're going to have to buy your own furniture. I don't really have a rule of thumb for this. My business partner's property, Ricky, I ended up furnishing his house pretty well for about $4,000. And that is a 1,600 square foot, 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom property. So I'd say on the very low end, depending on the size of the property. Once again, it's very subjective to the size of the property. If you have a condo, you can probably do it as little as $2,500 to $3,000. It also depends on the quality or the luxuriousness of the property you're going to furnish. My property cost me, I learned my lesson from it. I paid someone to furnish it, and it just was super expensive. I'm sure she made at least $10,000 on me. Mine cost me about $25,000 to furnish. I'd say on average, cushion in about $10,000 to $15,000 on the conservative end to furnish your property. Once again, it depends on the quality of the property, where you're at, stuff like that. So where are we at right now? We're going to say the average property in Arizona is $400,000 right now. So you're putting 400,000 times 5% down, for example, another 2% in closing costs. So you're at $28,000, plus let's do a $2,000 in just miscellaneous expenses. And then you're going to do about $10,000 in furnishing. So you're at about $40,000 right now to get the Airbnb up and running. After that, it's pretty cheap. You may have to pay someone for photos, or I highly suggest to pay a professional photographer for photos, because that's going to sell your property. Besides that, Airbnb is free to get going. So I'd say on the safe end, for a $400,000 house, if you're putting 5% down, I would cushion it about $40,000, which is 10% of the purchase price on the property. That's kind of irrelevant though. Someone asked, did your modeling help you with real estate? So I would say no, but it has indirectly helped me a ton with social media. I had a relatively big social media presence before I got into real estate, and that directly transferred over to my knowledge on my Nick Palladino Real Estate Instagram account, which 95% of how I make money comes from that account and my YouTube channel right here, where I get almost all of my clients from social media on the traditional side of real estate. We get a lot of our deals from flipping, from people DMing me or DMing my business partner mainly on deals that they get. So everything kind of filters through my social media. And yes, I would say me having experience with social media, me having experience being on camera, because I used to do vlogs and stuff like that because of modeling, has helped me tremendously. Now, like my actual modeling career, like me going and doing photo shoots or anything like that, or people knowing me from me modeling, no, not at all. It hasn't helped me whatsoever. First steps to getting a short-term rental. I have a lot of questions about STRs. I guess people are interested in short-term rentals because I post about it a lot. First steps to getting a short-term rental. I think this person said first steps to getting a short-term rental, I already have an LLC. And that part where they said they already have an LLC is kind of like, I had someone else ask me this too. Someone else is like, I already have a business credit card for my Airbnb. What else do I need to do? And it's like, a lot of people are kind of avoiding the more important steps and kind of doing like the filler stuff first. Like you don't absolutely need an LLC. You don't absolutely need a business credit card to start your Airbnb. You have to just focus on the bigger ticket items to actually get to where you want to be, and that is acquiring a property, whether it be arbitrage or purchasing a property for yourself. Once again, I don't do arbitrage, so I'm not going to talk about that. But the first steps to getting a short-term rental is the same thing as the first steps to buying your first property. First thing you're going to want to do, figure out the area you want to be. So that's do your due diligence on not only the area for real estate in general, but you want to run your due diligence on how short-term rentals are doing out there. Does the city have specific rules? Like I think Palm Springs has very strict rules on Airbnbs now. So you have to run all that due diligence before you actually buy a property, because you don't want to buy one and then not be able to do it. There's a fast way to do this, and I actually recommend this is, first of all, you're gonna want to find an agent in the area that specializes in investment properties, more so like Airbnbs, or someone that has Airbnbs out there that can refer you to their real estate agent, because that's going to be able to kind of shortcut a lot of your due diligence. You're still going to want to do it yourself, but if you can find someone in that area that already does it, they know a lot of the legalities to it, because obviously they have their own stuff and they're going to be on top of it because they don't want to get screwed over. So that would be the best approach, is figure out where you want to be, learn the laws, whether that be learn it yourself or find a real estate agent. You're going to want to get pre-qualified, because a lot of real estate agents probably aren't going to want to give you the time of day unless you're pre-qualified. It really depends. At least the experienced ones that have a pretty busy schedule aren't going to really show you houses or entertain the idea unless they know that you can qualify for the property. And then the next steps would be basically just going out, looking at properties, making sure it checks all your boxes off. Like for me on short-term rentals, I'll make sure it has a pool in Arizona, and no HOA preferably, so there's no CCNRs that are going to restrict you from renting out that property, in a decent area, decent sized property. Like I just have a little checklist for me and my clients when they look out here. I'm actually closing on an Airbnb for a client in 9 days from now, so super excited for that. But yeah, there's basically just look for the property that's going to fit your criteria. How do you deal with bad contractors that are 2 months behind on a project? So if it gets to the point of them being 2 months behind on a project, you probably should have fired them a while ago, and I hope that you did not pay them beforehand, because that's exactly what happens. I've ran into issues where one of my contractors says, hey, this project's done. They send me photos because I'm not able to get out there, and then a week later, a couple days later, when I am able to get out there, they did shortcuts. And let me tell you, it is so much harder to get a contractor back out there when you fully paid them already. It's almost impossible unless you have a really, really good relationship with them. There's even been times where I have contractors that I've been using, and they will still not go out there, or they will take their time to go back out there if you already paid them. So the biggest thing is pay them in like partial payments like throughout the project. And the second thing is make sure you're staying on top of them. Go in there, don't just go on based off photos. If you're super busy, send an assistant out there, send someone else out there to make sure that everything's done properly, because it's a lot harder once you pay them, and they will most likely not come back out there. If they do, it takes a really long time, to the point where it's like, I'll just find someone else. Yeah, but you should not have let them get 2 months behind. I would have fired them and found someone else, do them in partial payments, get a timeline going. Advice for a first-time home buyer. This was asked like 3 or 4 times, so I wanted to add this in. My best advice for a first-time home buyer is now is not a bad time to get in, because yes, there's the inventory's going lower, so it's making it a little bit harder to buy properties as opposed to end of last year, where we had not sky high inventory, but much higher inventory. Now we're back down to about 33% from our top peak of inventory, so it's a little bit more difficult. But now is a good time as a first-time home buyer, especially if you don't have a strong down payment, because what we were seeing in 2021 and 2022, you were going up against people that were putting 20, 40, 50, 60% down on a property, even just buying it cash, like a lot of these hedge funds. And if you go in there with 3 to 5% down, you still have to get an appraisal on the property. You don't have a lot of equity if it under appraises. Like, sellers were just not willing to work with you, even from an emotional standpoint. They're like, I have a cash offer at the same price as someone else that's financed in half the close time. Like, of course, I'm going to go with the cash offer, the highly qualified offer that waives the appraisal. As a first-time home buyer, a lot of the times you don't have the option to waive the appraisal. I mean, we're not seeing that right now anyways, but you're going against, like, you have a lot better of an opportunity. And then on top of that, we are seeing a lot more people or sellers give seller concessions to home buyers, meaning that you can get your closing costs paid for right now. And you can also negotiate on the price. Even though interest rates are higher, there's a couple options to get you into your first home. There's something called a 2-to-1 rate buy down as well, which I'm not going to get into. I'm not a lender, but there's a lot of different options for first-time home buyers right now. And I think the first steps for you guys would just be like, start testing the waters, like going and looking at properties. Like, if you want to buy or if you need to buy, like, go out there, look at the properties, and run your monthly payments. That is very, very important. Don't only just look at what you can qualify for and what the purchase price of the property is going to be, but every single house you want to write an offer on, go to your lender, ask them, be like, break down my monthly payments if I put down this amount, if I put down this amount, break down my cost of insurance in there, the cost of my HOA in there. Make sure they break down your monthly payments very specifically, because right now, with rates are higher, your monthly payment is obviously what you're going to be focused on, and you want to make sure you're comfortable with that. So don't only focus on the purchase price, and if you're getting a good deal on it, you want to make sure your monthly payments are making you comfortable. Now, with that being said, I think within the next couple of years, there'll be a really good time to buy right now at a little discounted value and then refinance your property at a lower interest rate, basically for free, which will drop your monthly payments. I mean, who knows what the rates are going to be down to, but I think they're going to be a little better than this. $300, $400, $500, $600 a month, sometimes even $1,000 a month less than what you're paying now for just refinancing the property because rates drop. So that's another option. Sorry, my camera died. Next question. What's more profitable, being an agent or investing in real estate? I think this is a personal question towards me. For me, it's investing in real estate. Being a traditional agent, I didn't actually do so well last year, I'm going to be completely honest. I actually did better I did do better. I think I did better. I did better as my first year as an agent compared to last year, because last year I was so laser focused on my real estate investing because it was just much more lucrative than being a traditional agent. So I kind of like put less of my mind and my focus on getting traditional agents or traditional clients as a real estate agent. This year, my big focus is finding a good balance, and I think I'm doing a really, really good job at that. I've already closed like 4 or 5 transactions traditionally on the traditional side of real estate, which is really exciting. So, but still more so, investing in real estate is my main bread and butter. But being a traditional agent is just like goes hand in hand with that. It's literally like I find myself a deal or I can find a deal for my clients. But the hardest part is being a traditional agent is finding clients. Like I said this in a video before, being a real estate agent, the hardest part about being a real estate agent is just finding Like, you have to be a salesperson. You have to find your clients. Being the actual agent and finding them good deals or houses is the easier part. Last two questions. Can I use an FHA loan to buy a short-term rental? Yes, you can either buy it as a primary and move out later on, or you can buy a duplex like what this person wants to do, is live on one side, rent out the other. That is no problem whatsoever. The difference between a long-term rental and short-term rental for lenders is the same thing. They don't differentiate that. They don't have a certain type of loan for short-term rentals. So if you're renting out a property, it doesn't really matter which way you're doing it. Do you miss living in LA? Absolutely not. The more I live here and the more I travel back for work in Los Angeles, like I was there on Thursday of last week, it's Sunday now, makes me not miss it, makes me so grateful that I moved out here, and not only moved out here, but moved out here at the time that I did, and just kind of start my career out here. Because I did have a hard reset in 2020. I didn't do real estate. I wasn't a traditional agent. I flipped maybe one or two houses, and then I completely shifted gears in 2020. Late 2020 at that, so basically 2021. So super happy with the choices that I made, and I'm glad to be out here. I think Arizona is probably going to be a long-term place for me for sure. I'm building a lot out here, not like physically building houses, I wish I was, but like just building my name out here, I guess, in a sense, like with the real estate portfolio, with the traditional stuff. I do not want to restart that, because it has been a hell of 2.5 years basically trying to build that up, and resetting that's definitely difficult. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Follow me on TikTok, follow me on Instagram. If you guys are looking to buy or sell here in the Arizona area, my last video I talked about buying or helping my client buy a under $200,000 townhome that cash flows, and I actually got another interested client based on that video, so I appreciate that, guys. But yeah, if you guys are interested in a long-term or short-term rental in Arizona, message me on Instagram. I respond on there to everyone, and that's the best way to get a hold of me, guys.